What would be the incentive? What would be the reward for Vasily Lomachenko to fight Shakur Stevenson at 130 pounds right now?
I think that it'll be a big reward. I think that he just lost to one young, hungry lion. It's another one that's calling your name too. And if you come back and try to, beat this one, then it'll look good. It'll look like what you were saying was right. That well, not what he was saying, what everybody else was saying. With the 135, that the weight was the problem. It'll look like that if he can come do that. But I promise you, there's no way that he could do that. Like, it's impossible. I would not let him beat me. Ain't no way a scared man could beat me.
Dontaesboxingnation, what's going on, guys? So once again, it looks like all of the fights that the fans want to see will most likely not happen. It's just so crazy because even old media, leading up to the Devin Haney fight, old media, new media, they were all asking Kambosos, so who's it going to be? Are you going to fight Gervonta Tank Davis, or are you going to fight against Devin Haney? Do you know when it came to old media, no one mentioned Lomachenko's name? They only mentioned Tank Davis and Devin Haney's name because they knew that those were the biggest fights to make and the fights that made all the sense in the world, right? So what does Kambosos attempt to do? Pull a page out of Canelo Alvarez's book. I remember before the Canelo versus Caleb Plant fight, there were a lot of Canelo Alvarez fans in the comment section already defending Canelo, telling everybody to shut up. He's going to fight one of the big names next. Who else is there for him to fight? This is what Canelo Alvarez fans were saying. Some Canelo Alvarez fans, they were saying, I would rather see Canelo fight Bivol or Beterbiev over a Charlo or Andrade. We already know what that's about. That's about that MBF. No black fighters. Because it's still MBF all day for Canelo. Don't get it twisted, y'all. By the way, that MBF image that I used, that was from Southpaw's channel. Go ahead and subscribe to his channel. MBF means Canelo Alvarez is avoiding the dangerous, the undefeated black fighters. It doesn't count if you're fighting against some African no one has heard of who's been knocked out twice, has no defense, has no speed, no rhythm, no coordination, doesn't have a chin, all he has is a belt. That does not count. Imagine if there was a black American fighter in the welterweight division, and let's just say hypothetically, all of the lions, all of the best and most dangerous fighters in that division were Mexican. They're all going after this one black champion in particular, right? Let's say it's Floyd Mayweather. And all of these very dangerous Mexicans are calling out Floyd Mayweather in the same division. Canelo Alvarez, Oscar De La Hoya, Virgil Ortiz. And while the boxing world is expecting Floyd to fight one of them next, instead, who does he fight? He fights Brandon Rios, a man who's already been knocked out multiple times. And real quick before I finish that point, this image that I just put on the screen, this was an animation that I created. I at least created the concept of it. This was all of the lightweights avoiding Devin Haney. I said to myself one day, there's so many lightweights avoiding Devin Haney, they could create a team. So I created the team, the Lightweight Dodgers. And now Kambosos is looking to join the team. So back to my scenario. Floyd Mayweather, he fights Brandon Rios, a guy that has been knocked out multiple times before, right? And will be a heavy underdog. Matter of fact, let's turn this into a complete Canelo Alvarez scenario. So Floyd Mayweather actually moves up 2 weight classes because Brandon Rios has a belt up there. And remember, Brandon Rios, he's been knocked out about 2 or 3 times. And going into this fight, he is an underdog. Mexican fans, would you be sitting over here talking about how great Floyd Mayweather is because he moved up 2 weight classes and completely dominated the bigger champion, Brandon Rios? Would you be running around telling people that Floyd Mayweather beat the best Mexicans in the sport? Would you even give him credit for beating this Mexican fighter? I mean, we could even use Macaboo as an example for Floyd Mayweather. Let's say Floyd never fought Manny Pacquiao. He never fought Shane Mosley, never fought Canelo Alvarez, Diego Corrales, Jenner Hernandez, Ricky Hatton, Juan Manuel Marquez. And you know why I mentioned those names in particular? Is because every single one of those fighters I mentioned, they were on the top 10 pound for pound list. The same pound for pound list that old media uses today and uses as their favorite fighter list instead. So let's imagine Floyd Mayweather, he never fought any of those guys, but he jumped up to a higher weight class. He beat a Rocky Fielding. Then he jumped up 2 weight classes higher and he beat Macaboo, right? Then he unified all the belts, beating Caleb Plant, BJ Saunders, Caleb Smith, and Abdi Yildirim. Mexican fans, be honest. Would you be sitting over here saying, oh, shut up, you guys are just jealous. Floyd Mayweather is pound for pound the best. You guys are just jealous. Floyd Mayweather can do whatever he wants. He can fight whoever he wants. That's something else that never made sense. And I've asked a couple fans in my comment section, Mexican fans, who have said Canelo could do whatever he wants. I asked this one Canelo fan, I said, how would that benefit you as a boxing fan if a fighter is fighting whoever he wants and not fighting the guys that us boxing fans want to see him fight? How does that benefit you as a boxing fan? The guy never responded to the question. You know why he didn't respond? Because these decafs, dumb casual ass fans, and old media, when they say Canelo can fight whoever he wants, that means as long as he's not losing to some undefeated dangerous black fighter, they're okay with him taking on the easiest competition because they like the status that comes with it. See, when old media uses terms like pound for pound or even undisputed for fighters like Kambosos, Teofimo, they're using that status as a badge to say, now you don't have to fight any of these dangerous black fighters because you made it through the dangerous waters, avoided the sharks, and now you don't have to jump back in the water if you don't want to. This is what they're telling you. Someone sent me an article the other day, and the headline of the article reads, WBC calling Kambosos undisputed champion makes Haney fight unnecessary. This proves everything that I'm telling you guys. They're using these belts and these fake undisputed claims as a license to avoid dangerous black fighters. Usually it's the contrary. Once a fighter starts getting all the belts and he's young in his prime, he continues to go after the best competition. Before Anthony Joshua lost to Usyk, he had the majority of the belts at heavyweight and he still wanted to fight Tyson Fury, right? Imagine if Terrence Crawford had 3 of the 4 belts at welterweight. Matter of fact, imagine Errol Spence as the WBC champion, and then the WBC president decides to make Terrence Crawford the franchise champion. Do you guys think that Crawford is going to stop going after Errol Spence? We know what time it is. We know he's still going to push for that fight because Terrence Crawford, he wants to show everyone that there is nobody on the planet that can beat him. See, it would be completely different if fighters like Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos, they completely cleaned out the division. They beat Gervonta Tank Davis, Devin Haney, Lomachenko. They beat everyone, right? Moved up to 140, beat Josh Taylor, beat whoever was dangerous there. They dominated the sport for a good 10 years. Now they're just chilling, right? Now they're just saying, you know what, man, I can fight whoever I want to fight. I've already stamped my legacy. Then it's way more understandable for fighters to talk the way Kambosos, Teofimo, and old media is talking today. They're telling these 22, 23-year-old fighters you can fight whoever you want. From this point in your career, you can fight whoever you want. Well, hell, if that's the case, they should have said this to Floyd Mayweather after he beat Diego Corrales. Hell, after he beat Jenner Hernandez when he was around 21, 22, and 23. The only fighters today that truly believe that they are the best are fighters like Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Stephen Fulton, Terrence Crawford, David Benavidez, Demetrius Andrade, and Josh Taylor. See, all those fighters that I mentioned, they don't have the luxury of being a heavyweight where you have no choice but to fight the best fighters in the division. You can't escape to a different weight class. You can't do any of those things, right? These fighters that I just mentioned, they pretty much have options to either go the Canelo Alvarez route or go the Floyd Mayweather route. It is so amazing to me how so many fighters that are willing to do things that Canelo is not willing to do right now, fighters that are much better than Canelo Alvarez, are showing him respect as if he's on their level, and Canelo's not on their level. We all know what would happen if Canelo and Shakur were naturally the same weight, if Devin and Canelo were naturally the same weight, if Terrence Crawford, if Gervonta Tank Davis, if they were all naturally the same weight, Canelo Alvarez loses all of those fights hands down. And deep down, the Mexican fans that are diehard Canelo fans, they even know it's true. Of course, they're not going to admit it, but they know deep down. They know what it is. Because time and time again, these type of Mexican fans I'm talking about, and I'm not talking about all of them, obviously, we're excluding the non-racist ones, but the racist ones I'm talking about, they have watched so many of their favorite Mexican fighters, from Oscar De La Hoya to Canelo Alvarez to Fernando Vargas to Chavez Sr. to Marco Antonio Barrera to Antonio Margarito, Juan Manuel Marquez. You know what all of those fighters I just named have in common? Every single last one of them suffered their very first loss to a black fighter. So a lot of these racist fans, they already know what time it is. This is the reason why the whole truth is their kryptonite. You could call me whatever you want to call me, but one thing you will not call me is a damn liar, because I could pull up all the receipts if you want me to. So with that being said, old media is trying to destroy the sport of boxing. Like I said, they are going to push for Kambosos now to fight against Lomachenko, and neither one of those guys wants to fight the WBC champion, Devin Haney. So we're going to keep seeing these MBF scenarios play out. We're going to keep seeing these Teofimo Lopez, Oscar Valdez, Jaime Munguia, Kambosos, and now Lomachenko play these MBF games in the sport of boxing. Continue to fight against opponents that no fans are asking to watch if we as the people don't do anything about it. Power is definitely in numbers. And if you combine new media with social media and everyone speaks against the injustices and the double standards of the sport of boxing, then we can make a change. And one day this sport will look like the UFC, where all the fighters fight the best all the time. This sport will look like the NFL, the NBA, where all the teams play against the best in every single season. That's the way boxing is supposed to be. So all of you guys need to keep making your voice heard on Twitter, on Instagram, and all these other social accounts. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here on my YouTube. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.